Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, plus ESPN Radio simulcast live over the national television airwaves of ESPN News. And when I said Sirius XM, it's also Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. You know, before I get into a bevy of things, the NBA, Robert Kraft, Antonio Brown, LeBron James, the protest at Ole Miss by its basketball players. Before I get into any of that, let me congratulate the New York Yankees. This dude, Aaron Hicks, that the Yankees just inked to a 7-year, $70 million extension, second largest contract doled out for the offseason, by the way. Second, obviously, to Machado. The bottom line is this. Hicks can play. Had about 27 home runs last year. Okay? And when you look at what he's bringing to the table, this is a deal. This is a deal. And Brian Cashman deserves a lot of credit because everybody talks about Manny Machado. Everybody talks about Bryce Harper. Because Bryce Harper and the Phillies are talking, but over the weekend he talked to the Los Angeles Dodgers and all of this other stuff. Let me tell y'all something. When you look at what the Yankees did with this deal, it's nice. I like Giancarlo Stanton. I like Aaron Judge. I like Gary Sanchez with Hicks and the rest of the crowd. I like this. I like the fact that the Yankees went this route. Now, this is a guy that could have waited years and ultimately signed a mega 9-figure deal for all we know, considering his upside, but he wanted some security. He wanted some security. And the Yankees said, you know what? We'll give you some security. We'll take you up a few $1 million a year. Make sure you're making at least $10 million a year, but you're going to give us some extra years. You give us some extra years. Have us lock you up. We'll secure your future. And I look at it from that perspective. I'm very, very happy that the Yankees did that. I'm very happy at the way that they're doing it. I'm not interested in the Yankees signing another $300 million player. Although that's not what they did with Giancarlo Stanton. They traded for him. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a one-man wrecking crew smacking homers out of the ballpark. And then the postseason arrives, and it just ain't enough. Not when the Boston Red Sox are running roughshod over everybody. Not when the Boston Red Sox are balling collectively the way that they balled, particularly last season. Not when we bragged about Giancarlo Stanton, but J.D. Martinez was the one doing it up at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in deals like this. Yeah, Machado got his money. Let's see what the Padres do. Not a damn thing. They're going to do a damn thing. They missed the postseason 6 times. The last 6 years, they're going to miss it again. Bryce Harper, you get $300 million from the Dodgers. That would be nice. But guess what? The Dodgers will probably come up short in the World Series again. Not winning the World Series since 1988 again. So I'm not sold on any of that whatsoever. I like what Cashman is doing here. I like the pieces that him and Aaron Boone and Hank and Hal, the modern-day soap opera themselves, have assembled before our eyes. I like this deal because I like Aaron Hicks. CeCe Sabathia's going to play another year. Severino got his deal. Sanchez is coming back, supposedly, to Aaron Boone. He's highly motivated. I like that. Because he's got some stuff to make up for after the season he had last year. I like that. So I just wanted to give props to Brian Cashman and the New York Yankees for doing this deal, getting it done. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call us. 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Now let me get to a couple of other things. LeBron James has made news. And John, let me know if we have sound on LeBron James speaking to the media because he's not a very happy camper. the 3-time champion, the 4-time league MVP, the man universally recognized as the greatest player in the world, who decided to bring his talents to Southern California, is not happy with the Lakers, courtesy of a loss to the New Orleans Pelicans, who were playing without Anthony Davis and still beat the Lakers. LeBron James spoke to the media thereafter, and here's what he had to say.
Obviously, there's been a ton of games already, and it's still searching for it. Is there enough time to find it?
I don't know. We just got to play better our next game in Memphis, but we're almost 60 games in, so I don't know. When you've never been there or know what it takes to actually, shoot for something like that, and sometimes you're afraid to get uncomfortable, so you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm not saying that's what we are as a whole. Kind of looks that way at times, that, sometimes we feel like we're afraid to be uncomfortable, kind of get out of our comfort zone, kind of have that sense of urgency, from the jump, and not be afraid to actually go out and fail to succeed.
Interesting comments by LeBron James. Couple of things. Number one, you got to be there to know what you're going after. I guess that's what he's trying to say. When you look at it from the Pelicans standpoint, obviously Drew Holiday had a big game. Julius Randle, who played for the Los Angeles Lakers last year and inexplicably was allowed to depart from L.A. and end up in New Orleans by Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, because I don't understand why that happened. You have a situation where the Pelicans, a team that was not supposed to beat the Los Angeles Lakers, have beaten the Los Angeles Lakers. And in their last 10 road games, the Lakers are now 2-8, having lost 4 straight. Right now, the Lakers do not look like they're going to make the playoffs. Now, I'm not jumping ship on them. I haven't completely jumped off the wagon. I haven't completely adopted the mindset that they're finished, that this season is pretty much over. There's still 23 games to go. They're 3 out of the 8th and final playoff spot. Me personally, I don't want the Lakers in the playoffs if they have to play Golden State in the first round. I would much rather see the Sacramento Kings play the Golden State Warriors in the first round. I think that would be a far more entertaining series than Golden State LA. I think Golden State would blow LeBron and LA out of the building, out of the state. I think they take them out in 4 games. I think Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and those boys would sweep the Lakers. They'd annihilate them. And by the way, this is Straight Talk Wireless. And this conversation right now is being brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. I think the Warriors would absolutely positively blitz the Lakers. I don't want the Clippers in there because I want the Clippers to get a lottery pick as opposed to making the playoffs, not being in the lottery, and having to forfeit their draft pick to the Boston Celtics. I would rather the Clippers miss the playoffs, get a marquee dude in free agency, and call it a day. It don't look like they cooperating. When they traded away Tobias Harris to Philadelphia, I thought the Los Angeles Clippers were saying, all right, to hell with this season. Steve Ballmer's making plans to get his own arena in 2020 by 2024. His mindset is that they need their own homes. They don't need to be sharing the Staples Center with the Los Angeles Lakers, being a fair-weather stepchild to the Lakers, which I agree with. And I thought they were of the mindset, we'll have enough money to go after 1, potentially 2 max players, a Kawhi Leonard, a Kevin Durant, etc. We've got an opportunity to go after those guys. Let's do that. And forget this season. That's what I was thinking. But Doc Rivers and his crew ain't cooperating at all. Doc Rivers and his crew trying to win games. Doc Rivers and his crew trying to get it done. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the postseason. They want to go up against the Warriors. They want to compete against these other teams. That's where they are. Me personally, I don't care to see the Clippers in the postseason this year. That's just me. I'd rather see them make a splash in free agency and make noise that way. Jerry West, Steve Ballmer, and the crew are coming. Lawrence Frank, Doc Rivers included are coming. But I would much rather see the Sacramento Kings going up against the Golden State Warriors. That would be far more entertaining to me. Because even though they lost all 4 times to the Golden State Warriors, do y'all know that the Sacramento Kings lost to the Golden State Warriors 4 times this year by a combined 12 points? Did you know that? Marvin Bagley, his length, his athleticism, his willingness to play defense, Willie Cauley-Stein, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bogdanovich. I mean, these brothers can play, man. Adding Harrison Barnes to the mix in a trade with Dallas. Sacramento can play. I got to give credit where credit's due. Now, I hate the fact Dave Yeager's their coach. Because I think after the stuff that happened to Memphis, he didn't deserve that opportunity. Just wait for him at the door. They could have had somebody else to give them the opportunity. But I can't knock the job that I'm seeing. I can't knock how competitive they are. Vlade Divac and the squad that he's assembled as an executive. I can't knock what I'm seeing from Sacramento. And even though they probably get swept or win one game against the Golden State Warriors, every game would be entertaining because they would fight them tooth and nail. They've got nothing to lose. They're playing with house money. If you're the Lakers, if you're LeBron James and the Lakers, the goal is to make the playoffs. Since LeBron James went down and he's missed 18 games, they were a top 4 seed, top 5 seed when he went down. Now they're like a shell of themselves. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. I don't like the way the Lakers are looking. They're looking bad. Brandon Ingram has looked good at least 2 of the last 3 games. Had 29 last night against the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram's looking good. Kuzma's tailed off a little bit. Josh Hart, I don't know what's going on with his minutes. The consistency, it's not there. JaVale McGee was balling. Somehow, some way, Luke Walton is reducing his minutes. I don't understand it. Rondo isn't having that big of an impact. Lance Stevenson isn't having that big of an impact. Tyson Chandler isn't having that big of an impact. These are the individuals with playoff, if not championship experience. Rondo and Tyson Chandler are champions. They've won the chip and played pivotal roles in their teams, Boston and Dallas, respectively. 2008, 2011, winning the chip. And Lance Stevenson has played in a few playoff series, including a conference finals. I don't understand it. And I like Luke Walton. I like him a lot. And I hope that things get turned around and the Lakers end up excelling. My prediction of them going to the conference finals did not take into account LeBron James getting injured. I'm sorry. I didn't see that. And now that that's been the case, obviously the Lakers ain't going to no damn conference finals. They might not even make the playoffs. They might not. But you know what I don't want? I don't want the Lakers to make the playoffs and this to be all about, you know what? We made the postseason. We pulled this off. We did what we needed to do. So we made the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. And you know what? So what if we look like trash come playoff time? No, I don't want that. I want the Lakers making a run and reminding us what teams led by LeBron James are supposed to be capable of. That's what LeBron James has been teaching us over the last 9 years. And that's exactly what I want to see now. I'm just of that mindset. That's where I'm at with it. So my mentality is very, very simple about that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch. I'm here to tell you right now. The Lakers, I don't understand why they have been looking the way that they have been looking. I don't understand why they've been struggling the way that they've been struggling. I mean, I do, but I don't. Defensively, they're missing assignments. They're not doing the things that they're supposed to do. They're not making open shots consistently enough. And you got people sitting there talking about, well, you know what, is this the right approach for LeBron James to take? What other damn approach is he supposed to take? If I was LeBron James, I'd be saying the same thing. I don't want to hear about guys talking about they want to trade and block or everybody acting like they're a bunch of babies. Magic Johnson was right. They're not babies. This is pro sports. I got a producer here. It's all LeBron's fault. It's his fault. I mean, come on, Stephen A. You know, this is a roster he helped assemble. It's on him. No, it's not. How you a professional athlete get caught up in your feelings and it's somebody else's fault? How is that possible? I mean, you bunch of babies, grow the hell up. LeBron James is absolutely right. He is not wrong. He is not wrong. Oh, well, what does he have to call him out? Well, what else is he supposed to do? Sit idly by and say nothing while you wet the bed, acting like you wearing diapers? Grow the hell up and play. Lonzo Ball being out. I ain't nothing about Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's got promise. Lonzo Ball is not a scrub. I see that. I respect it. I've got no problem with it. But I don't want to hear a damn thing about Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's the number 2 overall pick who is perfectly content in dribbling the ball past half court, passing it off, and go hiding into a corner. That is a fact. I've been crying about Lonzo Ball's lack of aggression forever. How do you have a daddy like his with the mouth that man has and you demure and passive? How is that possible? Isn't there something to be said for being a brethren, a seed of someone? I mean, that's like my daughter being quiet. How's that possible? I can't see that. It's not going to happen. So you got to get up and play. If you're the Lakers, you got to understand and embrace this reality and go from there. And that's not what they're doing, which is why I have no problem with LeBron James calling out his teammates. He didn't mention them by names, but you know who the hell he's talking about. You see what's happening on the court. And you also know that Luke Walton's days are numbered. And I'm not happy about that. I don't want Luke Walton's days to be numbered. I want Luke Walton to survive and thrive. I like Luke Walton a lot. I love his daddy, Bill Walton. Good man. And I want Luke Walton to be a guy that's coaching in L.A. for years and years to come. But the reality of the situation is when you look at the assistant staff that he has assembled, when you look at some of the errors that are taking place before our very eyes, and the fact that he's not Magic Johnson's hire, we all know what time it is. Luke Walton's about to lose his job. Luke Walton's about to lose the privilege of being the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. There's no way around it. And for those of you out there wondering who Magic wants, let me tell you something right now. Ty Lue is somebody that LeBron James and the crew would not mind having. Doc Rivers, assuming he decides to leave the Clippers, which he has the right to do, by the way, he would be a prime candidate as well. But we all know who Magic Johnson wants, in case y'all don't know. I'll put it out there because it's never going to happen and he knows it. So it's not it's not breaking news or anything like that. He might admit it, he might not. Let me tell you who Magic would love to have as his head coach. Mike Krzyzewski. Like almost anybody else would want. Why do you think Mike Krzyzewski coached Team USA basketball for 3 consecutive Olympics? Because that's who Jerry Colangelo and those guys wanted. Why? Because almost any player he wanted would play for him. From LeBron James to Kobe Bryant and D. Wade on down. Everybody would play for Mike Krzyzewski. And because that's the reality, of course, that's somebody that Magic Johnson would want. He's not going to get him, though. Can't see Coach K leaving Duke. But I just want to put that to bed. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before we go to break, let me revisit the story about Mr. Robert Kraft, owner for the New England Patriots. We talked about this on Friday. I was on the air, essentially of the mindset that 2 consenting adults, probably got caught doing something that they should not have been doing in a business like a massage parlor, whatever the case may be, unaware of the fact that it was a sex trafficking sting that was taking place before our very eyes. First of all, first things first, don't look at my producers, look at me. I was on television, and then after that, I had a meeting. And then after that, I hustled on the air and had notes in front of me that I didn't read. My responsibility, not my producers. That's number one. Number two, I'm very concerned for Mr. Kraft. Sex trafficking is a very, very serious thing. Now, he has not been accused of that. It's soliciting prostitution. That's the misdemeanor charge levied against him. In all likelihood, it wouldn't involve jail time, just a stiff fine. And I guess it wouldn't even be qualified as stiff since we're talking about a man worth over $6.6 billion. But in the end, what it comes down to is that when you hear the word sex trafficking, you think about young men and young women that are essentially enslaved, forced to do some things they'd never want to do. Human trafficking is a huge, huge deal in the United States of America and probably the world. Mr. Kraft himself has been charitable in donating funds to causes such as that, to fight some of the very, very things that he's now at least indirectly associated with. And there are those with the mindset, you know what, he doesn't deserve a pass. Because even with the sex act itself, that according to the police, they have him on videotape engaging in. They say that people like that do such things, you're an enabler. You're a part of the problem. You're not a part of the solution. My response is, A, that would be assuming that he knew about the sex trafficking and these individuals were involved in it, and that B, he didn't care. Now, he, for the record, has stated that he has engaged in no illegal activity. He didn't deny being at the parlor. He didn't deny what the police said he was doing at the parlor. So I guess the only thing that you can infer from his statement is that he didn't know that the participants were involved unwillingly in sex trafficking. Either way you slice it, here's what it comes down to. An investigation will obviously be ongoing. The NFL will get involved. And the biggest punishment that Robert Kraft will receive in all of this is extreme embarrassment, some would say. Now, there are a couple of things to take into consideration. A, in 2014, Jim Irsay, the owner for the Indianapolis Colts, was fined $500,000 and suspended 6 games. Why? Because he had pled guilty to a DWI charge. So if he got a $500,000 fine and a 6-game suspension somewhere along the line, 6 games, 6 months, I think it was six months. But if he got that kind of suspension for a DWI charge, what is Robert Kraft going to get? Because it's about impugning the integrity of the shield. And it's about what Commissioner Roger Goodell in the NFL had said back then, that owners, management, etc., should be held to a higher standard than the players, although they came out with a statement this morning saying that the standard of the owners is equal to that of the players. I respectfully disagree. I think that an owner should be held to a higher standard than the players. So while they felt the need to modify their position from 2014 to come out today and talk about how it should be equal, I disagree with that. I think owners should be held to a higher standard. And that's applicable to Robert Kraft as well. And now you have a situation where if Jim Irsay got $500,000 fine in 6 months, what is Goodell going to do when it comes to Mr. Kraft? And let us also not forget that Jerry Richardson, former owner for the Carolina Panthers, was compelled to sell the Panthers when he was involved in a sexual misconduct scandal. Let's not forget that as well. So problems could be far and wide. We don't know what's going to happen. But we'll find out. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Like I said, You're listening live to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We'll continue to discuss this and some more things, and I'll take your phone calls as well. I'm in the house. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A. We're
Ha-ha! 33 minutes past hour number one back here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Wendy's, proud sponsor of the 2019 John R. Wooden Player of the Year. Want to take a moment to step away from sports for just a second here and to give major congratulations to my buddy, the one and only Spike Lee. Captured his first Oscar last night. The director extraordinaire captured the Oscar, the first of his career, for Black Klansman. Star of that movie was John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son. Star of that movie, Black Klansman. He did an exceptional job, but Spike Lee wins his first Oscar. Can't tell you how happy I was. His acceptance speech rattled a few folks. You know, he was excited. You know, was just a little bit all over the place. They had to bleep out some of the stuff he said. He started off by saying, "Do not turn that MFing clock on." He shouted as he took the stage because he had a lot to say. But he won his first Oscar at Sunday's Academy Awards, following 5 nominations over nearly 30 years. So I've known Spike Lee a long time, obviously a diehard Knicks fan, and we've been friends for years. And I can't tell you how happy I am for him that he captured this award. This is a very, very big deal. And the wonderful Regina King, Beale Street, what she did in that movie and what she's done throughout her illustrious career, for her to finally capture an Academy Award as well. You just can't say enough. You really, really can't. Had her mom there with her. It was very, very touching. I met Regina King a few years ago. Every time we see each other, obviously, show each other a lot of love. And she's a phenomenal, phenomenal actress. And for her to finally capture the award as well was something special. But Spike Lee, I know him personally, and I've known him for years, and he's a friend. And I know how much this meant to him. And it was beautiful, ironically beautiful, that Samuel L. Jackson was up there presenting and announcing the winner. Spike Lee jumped off his feet into Samuel L. Jackson's arms and gave him a big hug. Samuel L. Jackson also made sure to let him know that the Knicks actually had ended an 18-game home losing streak by beating the San Antonio Spurs last night as well. So just happy for Spike Lee. Just really, really happy for him. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. Let me finish up this whole Robert Kraft thing by saying this. Like I said, in the interest of full disclosure, I know I know a little bit about the man. I've had the pleasure of having a relationship with him. We talk frequently, one-on-one. I know him. I've been to his home. AFC Championship game, preview last year, and we've spoken on many occasions in the past. I was at before the Super Bowl. He had an event. I was there. I attended. Meek Mill was there. Jamie Foxx hosted the event as well. I was there. I got a lot of love and respect, and I revere this man in a lot of ways. I'm shocked and stunned to hear his name as a part of this, even though he hasn't been accused at all of sex trafficking, and that's a point that needs to be made. He's somebody that is being accused of soliciting prostitution. And the bottom line is that it's not a good thing for him to be a part of this. It's difficult for somebody like myself and others who know him a little bit and pretty much knows what he stands for to be sitting here talking about him being in this position. And he has acknowledged, he didn't deny, rather, that he was at the spa. He didn't deny the police assertion that he was engaged in a sexual act, but he did emphasize that he did absolutely positively nothing illegal. So chances are, soliciting prostitution, it'll come with a fine, and the biggest punishment he'll receive is the embarrassment of it all. And to know him, that obviously is going to affect him deeply because he cares about his name, his reputation, and that of his organization, his team, etc. But in the end, if you're the National Football League, you cannot give Jim Irsay the penalty that you gave him in 2014 and don't deal accordingly with Robert Kraft. That's just the reality of the situation. And regardless of people like myself and others who know him a little bit, who believe in innocence until proven guilty, who don't want anything like this to be associated with him, the reality is that it has been. And as a result, we got to call it like we see it. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Jonathan. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A. Smith, you are the man. I've been listening to you for years. I'm a Bronx boy. You got me through some dark times in the military and out.
All right.
You just stole my thunder a little bit. I want to congratulate Spike Lee as a fellow NYU alum and New Yorker.
Okay.
Well-deserved and long-earned. And Aaron Hicks, it was a home run. Cashman deserves a lot of credit. And then real quick, and then I'll let you, I don't want to steal any more of your time. Could you speak a little bit, what are the chances of the Thunder in the West? And then also bring Kyrie home to the Mecca. And
First of all, I would love Kyrie to come to New York. I don't think he's coming by himself. And the question is, can he convince somebody to come with him? That remains to be seen. As it pertains to the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm not going to give them a 50-50 slot because that will put them on even par with the Golden State Warriors, which they are not. But I will tell you this. I consider the Oklahoma City Thunder the number one threat to the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference. They are a very, very good team. Paul George, as far as I'm concerned, is a leading MVP candidate, league MVP candidate. Russell Westbrook is a flat-out stud and a star. And collectively, they play within themselves. They play defense. On many occasions in the past, we've looked at Billy Donovan, a two-time national champion as a coach at Florida, and we questioned whether or not he was made for this game, even though he had gotten them to conference finals and things of that nature. I'm here to tell you right now, Billy Donovan has done a hell of a job with these Oklahoma City Thunders this season. He's done a hell of a job. He's got them playing together. He's got them playing for each other. He's got them playing defensively. And let me tell you something else, too. Russell Westbrook doesn't want to leave. Paul George doesn't want to leave. That Billy Donovan's got something to do with that. He's got something to do with that. So I think you got to take a moment to give Billy Donovan props for the job that he's done, because it ain't an easy job to do, but he's doing it. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. More of your calls in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
South Street Seaport, that is. It's being brought to you by Chase. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Max. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Max. What's up?
Stephen A., first off, if you're listening, Mr. Spike Lee, congratulations, man. Boom, shaka waka.
Yeah.
Stephen A., I'm a lifelong Lakers fan. I'm 31 and a half years old. I've been watching the Lakers ever since Nick the Quick, Van Axel, Vlade, Eldon Campbell, and my childhood favorite, Eddie Jones. Shout out Eddie Jones. I'm real upset right now. I'm real upset. That game in New Orleans was trash. I'm with you. I like Luke Walton, but Stephen A., I think you're on the right path with it. He's not going to be the coach after this season, especially if we don't make the playoffs, which is looking real slim right now. I don't see that fire, Stephen.
And fairness to my man Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose says he doesn't give a damn if Luke Walton does make the playoffs. He's telling you Luke Walton is not going to be back. Now, in fairness to Jalen, he's not standing alone there. We've all been hearing that. We've all been hearing this is a one-year deal, and then after that, Magic Johnson would replace Luke Walton unless Luke Walton made a run and they really, really showed up in the postseason and handled their business. But obviously that has not been the case.
Stephen A., my problem with him, I like him, and I think he's got a good basketball mind, but it's like, he talks about urgency, where's the urgency in the man's voice and in his face on that sideline? And they're just running around. He's had 60 games now to figure this team out. I don't see any. I know that we've had injuries, especially LeBron. Alonzo's been out. Kuzma's out for a little bit. JaVale was out with the flu. But seriously, where's the game plan? Where is the continuity on offense and or defense?
Well, listen.
They're just running around out there.
No, defensively is really the problem. They gave up 42 points in the first quarter to New Orleans. 42 points in the first quarter. I mean, and then think about it this way. LeBron James has 27 and 12. Brandon Ingram has 29 points. Kuzma has 16. Guess what? Each and every one of them shot 50% or better. So LeBron shot 64%. Brandon Ingram shot 55%. Kuzma shot 50%, and they still lost. That means you ain't getting production from almost anywhere else. Meanwhile, Julius Randle was on your team. He's dropping 24 on you, playing 38 minutes and being a rough rider out there. Elfrid Payton, your point guard, is a plus 20 with him on the floor. Some kid named Kenrich Williams starts in place. I wouldn't say in place of Anthony Davis because that'll be Jahlil Okafor. I mean, look, you just look at this right now, and you're just wondering what the hell is going on with the Lakers, man. It doesn't look good at all.
What do you think about Mark Jackson as the coach?
I would love it. I would love if Mark Jackson was the coach, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Ty Lue's another candidate because obviously he's got history with LeBron James, so you never know. Doc Rivers can't be ignored because guess what? He can get out of his contract in L.A. with the Clippers. He can get out of the contract. Listen, I'm telling you he can. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you just never know what's going to happen. We will see. We will see. Got to get on out of here, man. I appreciate the call, Max. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We'll come back with more of your phone calls. In hour number 2, going to get into a little football action because Antonio Brown is going to be going for the Pittsburgh Steelers along with Le'Veon Bell. There's been some noise about Aaron Rodgers yet again. That's something that's worthy of being discussed as well. And so we'll talk about all of those things. And, of course, the story about Mr. Kraft isn't going anywhere. And, again, LeBron, also Kyrie Irving has some things to say. Don't worry about nothing, Celtics fans. Don't worry about anything. I'll tell you why in hour number 2. Coming up next. On ESPN News, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over those particular platforms. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. If you missed any of my opening segment today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey! what's in your wallet. Also, the Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Prilosec OTC. Kick your antacid habit with Prilosec OTC. Hour number 2 is here with us. Let me get into a couple of other things that are worth noting. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a dilemma because now that they've made the decision and Antonio Brown is going to be gone, people are speculating, wondering whether or not you trade him to, you know, within the NFC, AFC, whatever. I got no problems with that. Trade him to the NFC. Don't deal with that man. Don't have to deal with that man. Please, please, please don't have to deal with that man twice a year, not even once a year. But the biggest reason why you want to trade Antonio Brown to another conference is because you don't want the circus that has been the Steelers this year continuing to come that way. You don't want that. Anytime he's around, anytime he's playing the Steelers, all the drama that led to his departure from the Steel City is going to be revisited. You don't need that headache. You really, really don't. And so what you want to do, come hella high water, is what you want to do more than anything else is avoid that drama. You don't want to deal with it. You just don't want to deal with it. And I think it's very, very important to point that out. You don't want to deal with that nonsense because it's unnecessary. It really is. So send them to the NFC and call it a day. Send them to San Francisco with Garoppolo, Jimmy G, porn star Jimmy. Go ahead and send them there. I got no problems with it. Let them do that. But don't keep them within the same conference, and damn sure don't trade them within the division. Don't do that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I need to get to another story of national significance because it's necessary to broach. There was an incident that took place involving 8 players from the Ole Miss men's basketball team on Saturday. They had a home game against Georgia. There was a Confederacy rally near the arena on campus. And these men basketball players had a problem with it. So minutes before the game, as both teams formed lines for the singing or the playing of the national anthem, as the Star-Spangled Banner began, 6 players for the Rebels, Ole Miss Rebels, K.J. Buffin, D.C. Davis, Brian Hollums, Luis Rodriguez, Devontae Shuler, and Bruce Stevens knelt one by one. They all took a knee during the national anthem. 2 more players, including leading scorer Breon Tyree and Franco Miller Jr., took a knee on the song's final line. The game was being played while 2 pro-Confederacy groups organized the march onto the campus in Oxford, Mississippi. Before I get into my take, let me read you a couple of quotes. This is from the team's leading scorer, Tyree. He said the majority of it was, we saw one of our teammates doing it and we just didn't want him to be alone. We're just tired of these hate groups coming to our school and portraying our campus like it's our actual university, having these hate groups in our school. He went on to tweet a little bit later, to the people that fight for this country, my teammates, and I meant no disrespect to everything that you do for us. But we had to take a stand to the negative things that went on today on our campus. Ole Miss coach Kermit Davis said he wasn't aware beforehand that players were going to kneel, but did add this. This was all about the hate groups that came to our community to try to spread racism and bigotry. He is a white man. This is what he is saying, the head coach, Kermit Davis. He says it's created a lot of tension for our campus. Our players made an emotional decision to show these people they're not welcomed on our campus. And we respect our players' freedom and ability to choose that. AD, athletic director at Ole Miss, Ross Bork, said he had a discussion with the players about the on-campus protests. And listen to what he added. These people that come here and they spill hate and bigotry and racism, we don't want them on our campus. Our players stood up for that, Bork said, who's a white male as well. It had nothing to do with the anthem. It had nothing to do with anything beyond. We don't want those people here. They're protesting during our game, and that's not right because that's not the Ole Miss that I know. We talk to them about that in the locker room. We support them because we don't want those people here either. The university doesn't want them. Our town doesn't want them. They're out of state. They're not from here. So good for the players to stand up and make that statement, end quote. Want to say to the Ole Miss basketball players, very, very proud of y'all. Proud of what y'all did. Found nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, understand something here. As my man Will Kane said on the radio, on my show First Take on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time, 7 to 9 Pacific. Will Kane pointed out how, and he can elaborate on it later when he's on the radio, but he spoke about it, and he was basically challenging, why does everything have to be about the anthem these days? Why does the protest have to be about the anthem? What are we really, really accomplishing here? He asked those questions. I think those are very salient points that he's making. I don't think they can be ignored. And the fact of the matter is, whether it's right or not, you're going to have some people who bring up issues of patriotism. Our president did that to the NFL players, which caused so many problems, over a year ago. There's no doubt about that. And the whole Colin Kaepernick scandal. This is different. Let's be clear about something here. People could get into the history of the Confederacy all they want to. We could talk about the history of the North against the South and the battle and how that American flag being raised and that American flag being waved, that defeated the Confederacy. And essentially racism was defeated. Why do you say that? Because Confederacy was associated with racism, with bigotry, etc. That's a fact. That's just a fact. In the eyes of disenfranchised communities in this nation, whether it be black or anything else, that's what the Confederacy has primarily been associated with. And so if you are a player in today's day and age, going to school at Ole Miss, which is Ole Mississippi, you're talking about the Deep South there. And you got pro-Confederacy groups that ain't even from town. And they're coming out of town to come on your campus. Why are they doing that? Why did they choose Ole Miss? Could it be that they were trying to give the impression that there's a whole bunch of people in this town, there's a whole bunch of people right here on this campus, this university, that are supportive of our position? Is that not what the intent was? Because why would you go someplace where everyone is diametrically opposed to you and your thinking and your beliefs and your preferred way of life? Why would you go to that place? So by going there, tacitly, if not directly, they were giving the impression or attempting to give the impression that that's what they're about, that's what that university is about, that's what the people near Ole Miss are all about, because it's Mississippi, right? Well, a player stood up and said, hold on a second. That was a different day. This is a new day. And we're here to tell you that's not the way it is now. We don't want you here. This university doesn't want you here. The student body doesn't want you here. There's a lot of people in this town that don't want you here. That's what they were saying. And I think considering those circumstances, it was a very, very profound statement for them to make. Because they knew by taking the knee, they would have to answer for it, which would garner them the attention that they wanted to knock down the pro-Confederacy groups. Now, you also have those who argue nobody even knew what the hell was going on until these players brought attention to it. But maybe that's the point the players were making. We want national attention to be brought to this because this is what we're dealing with locally, regionally, and we don't like it. And we need the muscle, the collective muscle of this nation to descend upon this area, to bring attention to what we're dealing with so it can neutralize and ultimately eradicate this kind of nonsense going on at our university or in our town. They have the support of their head coach. They have the support of their athletic director. I have no doubt that they have the support of their university president, their chancellor, etc. And as a result, it's a good thing. Because what you're attempting to do is weed out hatred. Not an anthem being overused as a forum/platform to illuminate issues that are permeating our society. No, that's not always the way to go. Absolutely true. But in this specific incident, I want to applaud those players. They did the right thing. Nonviolent, exercised their own protest, highlighted why they were doing so, articulated their patriotism and their appreciation for our servicemen and women. They didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. And I sincerely hope that I don't hear the President of the United States open his mouth and say that they did. Because if he said that they did, without calling out the pro-Confederacy group, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to add further fuel to a problem that's been invading our society over the last few years. And we all know what that is. So let's just hope that he stays out of it and focuses his attention on bigger issues and leaves this kind of stuff to us. Just a suggestion. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Peter. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Peter?
Hey, Stephen A.
How are you?
Do you think LeBron regrets going to the Lakers?
Nope. Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet?
No, not yet. This is his first season there.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he can't. That doesn't mean he won't end up regretting it if they don't do something this off season and they don't make things better for him next season and beyond. Absolutely. All right, take it easy. Have a good day. Walter, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., congrats to Spike Lee. Love your show, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Lifelong Steeler fan. I'm sick, man. How can you lose two players of that caliber? Now, I know there were questions of Ben's leadership and calling out his teammates. LeBron James did the same thing. You know, I think that's what leaders do. Mm-hmm. The way that he did call out Antonio wasn't, I guess, the greatest thing to do. But at the same time, Antonio, you're a big boy. You're a man here.
Well, listen, he wants out, and obviously the guaranteed portion of his dollars have been provided, so he's looking for new guaranteed money, and he certainly wasn't going to be in a position to demand it with the way things were going for him in Pittsburgh. So this could all be because of that reason. Because when he got on his treadmill and he was talking on us via Instagram last week, he made sure to mention you got to have guaranteed money to get him. He ain't playing for no more non-guarantees. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yes.
Also, I in the questions of Big Ben's leadership, when the players raided Le'Veon Bell's locker once it was determined that he wasn't coming back, I think that was a time where he could have stepped in, and squash that just because of the appearance of it. I think it closed the door of any future communications of maybe trying to work something out with Le'Veon.
But that's revisiting stuff, man. That's irrelevant at this point, to be quite honest with you. It don't matter how we got here. We here now. And the fact of the matter is that Big Ben Roethlisberger is going to be there. He's going to have Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to have, James Conner. He's going to have Vance McDonald. He's going to have Jesse James. He's going to have a stout offensive line. We'll see what they're made of. Plain and simple. We'll find out.
Thank you, brother.
I got to go. I appreciate the call, man. Derek, you're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Derek? How are you?
Good, Stephen A. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. About the Ole Miss
thing.
Okay.
With the kneeling. I'm a 40-year-old white male. My dad served in the military, and we lost him, fighting for our freedom. But I want to applaud the Ole Miss basketball team for taking a knee. I'm not a big kneeler for the national anthem, but if that's the way they felt, they needed to handle that situation against. I'm not all about the people who are about hate and bigotry and things like that, but I just want to applaud them, and I want to thank you for all that you do and the way you stand up and stand up for all of our rights. And I just wanted to give that comment to you.
Okay.
And
thank you so much.
I appreciate everything you do, Stephen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Let's go to Gary. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Gary? How are you, man?
I'm good, Stephen A. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for calling. How can I help?
Sure thing. Hey, after the tragic event of last week, some people actually criticized Coach Boeheim for taking the court.
Stop right there. Let me just educate our listeners about it. Jim Boeheim, after his Syracuse team beat Louisville at the Carrier Dome, was driving home at around 11 o'clock at night on, I think it was Interstate 690, if I remember correctly. And prior to him getting to a certain area, a car had swerved and hit some grill or some midsection grill or whatever the case may be. And ultimately, guys got out of the car because they didn't want any cars to slide into them and hit them. Well, upon getting out of the car, Jim Boeheim was driving his car down that same road and accidentally struck an individual who ended up dying because he got hit by the car that Jim Boeheim was driving. So that's what happened. He elected to come back and still coach Saturday's game against Duke. I was at that game Saturday as well, but Jim Boeheim coached it, and he felt that he owed it to his players, his program, what have you, to be out there coaching on that particular day. But obviously, he expressed incredible sadness over having accidentally killed an individual in a car accident. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, sure, and I appreciate you covering that because some people have been critical of him for taking the court that day, despite the circumstances. And in addition to that, there's been some criticism of the fans themselves for when Coach Boeheim hit the floor and the standing ovation that he got. And knowing that you were in the dome that day, I was wondering if maybe you could shed a little light on how that all went down and the reaction of the crowd to.
Well, people gave him a standing ovation because, but people need to understand. People need to understand, Gary. They were not giving Jim Boeheim a standing ovation because he showed up to coach the game. They were giving him a standing ovation to support him because they could only imagine what he must have been going through. It was an accident, okay? There was no alcohol involved. He wasn't inebriated in any way. The roads were slick. It had been raining earlier. There was ice on the road. It was an absolute accident. Okay, this is according to the police. Even though they still haven't finished their investigation, they have to go through dot the I's, cross the T's, etc. For all intent and purposes, it was an accident. So the people that gave him a standing ovation, this is a man that has been coaching at Syracuse for over 36 years. This is a man that's a national champion, has been to 5 Final Four appearances, that's a pillar of the Syracuse community. And they know, they can only imagine what he's going through because they know there's no way on earth that he wished any harm upon another human being, particularly of that magnitude. And no, none of us would. None of us with any core decency about us would. Could you imagine how you would feel, Gary, or I would feel if we were sliding on the road and we accidentally struck someone and we killed them? I mean, you got to live with that for the rest of your life. The man was 51 years of age, Mr. Jimenez, I believe his name was. And the man was 51 years of age, and his life was taken away from him because of an accident that clearly could not be avoided. That's why they gave Jim Boeheim the standing ovation, to let him know that he had support from that Syracuse community in light of the accident that took place.
Absolutely, and I'm a lifelong Syracusan, long-time season ticket holder as well. This community absolutely loves its program, loves its coach. and certainly it was all in love and support for the man for what he is going through.
Yeah.
But for the grace of God, go us. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. Gary, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Think about it. Listen, I've sped in my car on many occasions in my lifetime. Jim Boeheim wasn't even cited for speeding. He wasn't traveling at an exorbitant speed. He wasn't. There was no alcohol inducement. He wasn't inebriated in any way. So it was an accident. It could happen to any of us. And my heart goes out to him and his family and the Syracuse community. You don't wish something like that on anybody. You just don't. You know, and Mr. Jimenez is gone. God rest his soul. They gave him a moment of silence before the game at Syracuse. And what can you say? What can you say? I mean, you never in your wildest dreams believe that you'd be involved in an accident that kills somebody. And as Jim Boeheim said, he'll have to live with this for the rest of his life. And there is no question that that's exactly what he's going to have to do. I'm sad for him. I truly am. And I'm certainly sad for the Jimenez family. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live, Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute. By the way, you know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or a loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 30 minutes past hour number 2. Back in Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We'll get back to the phones in a minute at 800-919-3776. It's 800-SAY-ESPN. But before I do, I wanted to touch on what Kyrie Irving had to say. The Boston Celtics lost to the Chicago Bulls over the weekend. 42 points to Zach LaVine, 35 to Lauri Markkanen. Offset 37 points by Kyrie Irving. The Boston Celtics have lost 4 of their last 6. They're the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. If the players were to begin the day, they'd have the 76ers in the first round, with the 76ers having home court advantage. The reality is that the Boston Celtics should still be better than what they've been. They're about 14 games over 500. Nobody can deny that they're still winning more than they're losing. I am of the mindset that Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens made a mistake by just reinserting Gordon Hayward back into the starting lineup at the start of the season. The team hasn't been the same since. They were slower and less athletic with Gordon Hayward, who was coming off that nasty knee injury. I thought they shouldn't have let him come back till midway through the season and then even then try to bring him off the bench instead of keeping him in as a starter. They did not do that. And because they did not do that, it compromised them. It compromised the play of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It compromised the play of Terry Rozier. Ultimately, they made the decision that Gordon Hayward would go to the bench and Marcus Smart would be in the starting lineup. And things got better, but still in all, they struggle from time to time. My attitude is Marcus Smart should be coming off the bench again. Put Jaylen Brown back into that starting lineup and let Jaylen Brown with Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, and those boys do their thing. That's my opinion. But listen to what Kyrie had to say talking to reporters about why he's not worried at all. And now there's no reason to worry. Listen to this.
You're concerned the struggle that you guys have had will leak into the playoffs?
No, I'll be fine.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm here.
Man, I love that, brother Kyrie. And I like that. I like that. Because if you're Kyrie Irving, you're looking at the Boston Celtics, and what you're saying is, we're going to be all right. We're going to be in every game. But ultimately, it's going to get to a point where you're going to need somebody to close. You're going to hand somebody the ball and say, take me to the promised land, and that would be me. That's what he's saying. Keep in mind, this is a champion. Keep in mind, it's the same Kyrie Irving that when LeBron James, everybody was raving like LeBron James, like he was a one-man wrecking crew. It was Kyrie that averaged 27 the time they won the NBA Finals. It was Kyrie Irving that averaged 29 even when Kevin Durant was on the floor against them first go round. Kyrie Irving is a bad somebody. And boy, am I praying he comes to New York. But until the summer, I'm not going to jump off this wagon and act like there's not a belief. A reason, rather, to believe in Kyrie Irving, the brother special. He's special. He's something to behold. And I believe in him. Plain and simple. I'm here to tell you, I definitely believe in Kyrie Irving. So I would say to all of y'all, keep your eyes open. Kyrie said what he said. If anybody has the right to do it, he's one of the few who does. And speaking of basketball on the court, James Harden doesn't play Saturday night. The Houston Rockets still beat the Golden State Warriors, led by CP3 with 23 points, 17 assists, who was absolutely, positively sensational. And Houston has beaten the Rockets. Houston has beaten Golden State every time they've played this year. So I know that's reason for y'all to get excited and think that Houston's the number one threat to the Golden State Warriors. Pump the brakes. They're not. That would happen to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and a collective sum of parts that play together. They're better than the Houston Rockets. Houston just has a superstar in James Harden, but they're better than the Houston Rockets. Even though I do love the fact that Kenneth Faried is there and Clint Capella is back. That does upgrade Houston significantly. I thought they made a huge mistake by letting go of Trevor Ariza, but Kenneth Faried can ball. He's an Energizer Bunny in and of himself. I like him. So it'll be real interesting to see what transpires. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Chris. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yo, Stephen A., what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
Yeah, I heard you say earlier in the show that the Thunder are the biggest threat to the Warriors.
Yes. In the West, sir. In the West.
I disagree with that. I feel like the Rockets are the biggest threat to the Warriors at this point.
Okay. You can disagree. I don't mind, especially with CP3 and James Harden if they're on their game. I don't blame you for that. But I'm just in love with what I'm seeing from Oklahoma City. I really, really am.
No, I can't. I don't know if I can agree with that. I mean, with James Harden as the MVP, you got to give him some.
Man, goodbye. You don't get to call me with your dog barking on the air. What the hell's the matter with you? It's national radio, bro. Get it together. Let's go to Jonathan. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., first of all, you are the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I am with Levitard and Stugatz. I'm still waiting, and when can we expect the Christmas album?
What do you mean you're with Levitard and Stugatz? I don't understand.
Well, don't you remember they had you on this show, and hey, what you're going to be giving us a Christmas album? You said that they kept
I
trolling
doubt it.
you.
I doubt it. They just troll me. They probably record me when I'm trying to sing and all of that stuff. Show with my non-singing self. It's all in fun, though. I'm not mad at them.
You're the GOAT. I love you. I love having you around. It makes my day better.
Thank you, man.
Stephen A.
What did you want to say about Ole Miss?
With respect to the Ole Miss student athletes, are we looking at their draft stock falling? Is this another cap situation, blackball type deal? I mean, what are we looking at?
What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I think if we're talking about Kaepernick, and we saw how they blackballed him, and now these Ole Miss students are doing the same thing. Are is the institutional sort of thing going on going to step in and do the wrong thing again?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case because I thought they've handled it as perfectly as it could possibly be handled. They made sure to tweet that this was nothing against our servicemen and women. Number one, they were protesting against the pro-Confederacy groups that were showing up on their campus to spew what was deemed to be hatred. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's undeniable that, they handled it right because they had the support of the head coach. They had the support of the athletic director as well. And I think because of that, they don't have anything to worry about. Also, I haven't heard of any lottery picks on their squad. I mean, this kid Tyree's their leading scorer and all of that stuff, but essentially I haven't heard much about them as a basketball team in that regard. So I wouldn't get too carried away with that portion of it.
I'm with you. It's more of a social discussion that I think, a social discussion, a racial discussion that I'm trying to have with you.
Well, the point
because
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I think Kaepernick, the way they treated him was just wrong. And so now we're dealing with the same kind of thing here with the Ole Miss student athletes kind of following
Well,
suit.
you also have to remember, so we're talking about football where they went about the business of ostracizing him, and they were successful in doing so. That's not necessarily the case in the sport of basketball. First of all, in the sport of basketball, they don't have those problems because the players are unified and they're locking arms, but they're not protesting like that. Secondly, you have a commissioner in Adam Silver that has been very progressive and open in his support of a player's right to express themselves. All right. Thirdly, unlike the National Football League, it is against policy in the NBA to refuse to stand for the national anthem. And so because of that, they could invoke fines and penalties and what have you, and there's no argument that you can make against it because you collectively bargained that those were rules that would be stipulated by the National Basketball Association. The NFL had a rule that stated, we don't demand, but we strongly encourage that you stand for the national anthem. The NBA categorically demands it. That's the difference.
So do you feel that that it's any insult to the service members of the country?
No,
because I don't either.
Nobody's jumped to that conclusion because of the way these folks explained themselves about exactly what transpired and what was going on with those pro-Confederacy groups that were showing up from out of town to protest and march on their campus. They talked about those folks were spewing hate or what have you, and we don't want anybody thinking that that's what we're about here at Ole Miss, and I applaud them for doing so. I got to run, though. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. If you missed any of the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error in your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's creditkarma.com.
Need game tickets? Find your seats at
.com. Back to the show, to the phones we go. 888-SAY-ESPN. Elwood, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A.
Yes, sir. How are you?
All right, this is Elwood Plummer. Now, I'm a little older than you, but I went to Jackson State, and we played Big House games and Earl of Pearl Monroe.
Wow.
Yeah. So, they talk about a lot of these guys, about how good they are now, but remember you had Earl of Pearl Monroe.
Black Jesus. Absolutely.
That's right. Clyde Frazier.
Nope. Yeah. I got you.
And I'm trying to think of the other guy from Tennessee State, but, the Knicks had those three guards during that time.
You had the Ernie and Bernie show, too, but that was after that. But Ernie and Bernie later on, Ernie Grunfeld, Bernard King, they played at Tennessee. John McClendon, the mentor of the Big House Games, coached at Tennessee State, along with various other places, was taught the game by James A. Naismith himself. So I get where you're coming from. I appreciate your call, man. Thank you so much. You have a good day. Let's go to Paul. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Paul?
Yes, how you doing, Mr. Stephen A?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing good. I really didn't call about anything that's going on in sports, but I want to let you know I have an eight-year-old daughter. Her name is Zanaya, and I want you to understand that she started looking at the program because of you, and you inspire her, not only just with your sports talk. She didn't really like sports, but it's your politics, your awareness of what's going on in the world. And she just loves you to death. And she said, Daddy, can I marry Stephen A. when I grew up? And she even wants to go to the same college you went to. But this is the end. It was Halloween, and she wanted to dress up. So she said she wanted to dress up like Stephen A. But she said, I don't have no good suits. But she loves you.
Well, tell her I love her back and tell her I thank her so much. But as long as she loves her daddy more, it's all right with me.
Thank you, Stephen. And she watched you there. She tapes it.
All right. All right, I got to mind my manners. I got to watch my mouth then. I didn't know 8-year-olds were watching me. I got to watch. I guess I can't use the D word or the H word anymore, JC. I got to watch my mouth now. I got an 8-year-old listening to me. I didn't know. Thank you so much, my man. I really, really appreciate the love. Thank you so much. Hey, yo, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, what up, Stephen A? How you
Talk
doing,
to me, man. I'm good.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what is your take on this MVP race? You know what I mean? Like
Paul George, number 1, Greek Freak, number 2, James Harden, number 3, nip and tuck all the way. The last 20 games or so of the season will decide who's the MVP. There is no runaway. It's those 3.
MVP candidates. He wasn't he didn't play yesterday, and his team beat Golden State. So is MVP the best player in the league, or how valuable you are to you?
Now, see, that's not – well, listen, you can answer it that way. See, I don't look at it that way. The way I look at it is, what did he do when he was on the floor? I mean, you can't sit up there and say, well, he didn't play Saturday and they won one game out of 82, so guess what? James Harden, how important is he? What has he done when he has been on the floor? Show the man some respect. He's the reigning league MVP, averaging 36.5 a game. Let's show him some respect. Let's not talk about what they would do without him. Let's talk about what they've done with him. The Greek Freak. Milwaukee's been leading the league from start to finish in wins. And he's been absolutely dominant to the point where Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq himself, came on this show and said, we're going to throw away. He said, I wouldn't give my cape up, my Superman cape, for anybody. He said, I'll give it up for him. And then, of course, you got Paul George, who's playing like an MVP candidate. And Oklahoma City's a top 3 seed in the Western Conference because of it. So it's nip and tuck, 3-way all the way.
So why is Joel not part of that? Like, anytime Joel sits out, his team can go. He sits out 4 games. They can go 1-4.
Sir, you asked me my top candidates. I gave them to you. You want to throw Joel Embiid in there as a top 5 candidate? Sure. I would have put him ahead of the 3.
Okay.
Philadelphia's not better than Milwaukee. He's had more help than James Harden did for most of the season. And Paul George has been out of his mind. It's very, very simple. Have a nice day. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Thank y'all for joining the show with me today. Oh, sure, I'm glad I had an opportunity to touch on a bevy of topics that I touched on. But I'll be back in 22 hours. Looking forward to a great, great week of sports. So stay tuned. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, and ESPN News. I'll be right here, back in 22 hours as well. Until then, peace and love.
Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up right after